LEGO Star Wars has always been one of my favorite video games. Playing it provides me with an adrenaline-filled experience that can only be matched by such activities as clicking the subscribe button on a video you're watching, or even leaving a like. Growing up, I had LEGO Star Wars the video game for GameCube, LEGO Star Wars 2 for GameCube and Game Boy Advance. Eventually, I got LEGO Star Wars the complete saga for Wii, as well as the Nintendo DS. But there's something missing here. This one. I never had this version of this game growing up. It was always a myth to me. This used to keep me up at night as a child. The mere thought of completing my LEGO Star Wars Game Boy Advance collection did fascinating things to my body that I still can't explain today. This version of the game wasn't actually developed by TT Games. It was a different studio called Amaze Entertainment. They were a studio that pretty much exclusively made handheld ports of licensed games such as Shrek 2 and Shark Tale. Now I say they were a studio because in 2006, Amaze was acquired by Foundation 9 Entertainment, who then merged them with another studio they owned called Kryptonite Games. These studios no longer exist, probably because handheld ports of licensed games aren't really a thing anymore. So, the game. Right off the bat, there's a big difference between this and the console version, and that is that there's no hub area on the Game Boy Advance. I'm not sure why they didn't include a hub area. I know there's one on the GBA version of LEGO Star Wars 2, so obviously there wasn't any kind of technical limitation. It's pretty obvious that this was an artistic decision by the development team. A hub world would take away from the immersion of each episode, so they had to make you go directly into the levels. They couldn't have the player distracted by some flimsy little diner. They really meant business with this game. The Phantom Menace Level 1. So I actually sat here for a minute a little bit confused, expecting the cutscene to play out. It didn't. You have to press a button to view the next slide. That's right, it's a slideshow. See, the console version of this game took the easy route. They have cutscenes to show what's going on. But the Game Boy Advance edition of the game wanted a real challenge, so they limited themselves. They restricted themselves to slideshows only. So you get into the gameplay, and for some reason they decided to make Obi-Wan the only playable character for the entire level. You would think if they had to choose only one character, they would go with Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, I'm not complaining, I love Obi-Wan. It's just kind of weird. Alright, slideshows instead of cutscenes, Obi-Wan instead of Qui-Gon, that's all fine. But you probably want to know what the gameplay's like. Let's begin with the combat. The combat's pretty simple. You can swing your lightsaber to attack and you can do a Jedi Slam, but Jedi Slams use up your stamina bar. Also, every character has a special stamina move. Obi-Wan's stamina move is pretty straightforward. It's a force push. This is probably the most straightforward stamina move in the game. This is overall a pretty simple level. You just sort of walk around, fight some enemies, use the force on some things, and then it's done. Why did I unlock Qui-Gon? I thought I was playing as Obi-Wan. Once you've completed the first level, you're just thrown into the next one. There isn't even an out-of-context slideshow to accompany it. You now get to play as Qui-Gon, and this is the first level where you need to change your character during the level. Jar Jar becomes playable somewhere in the middle of the level after Qui-Gon saves him. Blast him. Now that I know that you can, in fact, change your character during the level, I'm just confused as to why Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan weren't both playable in the first level, and why they were so adamant that you can only play as Obi-Wan. Also, the game only allows you to have one playable character on screen at a time, so if you switch to someone else, the character you're currently playing as just falls apart on the spot. If you're done with them, they just die. And they don't even give a cool death sound. Now there's a huge problem I have with this game. It's time to bring up the real criticisms. If you die, you need to restart from the last checkpoint, and checkpoints are few and far between. There are moments in this game where you need to accomplish difficult tasks while having 20 battle droids dropped on you, and all you have to defend yourself is the awful combat system this game has to offer. Then you die, and you lose like the last 10 tedious minutes of progress. It might not sound that bad, but when you're fed up with a broken level and you're just about to complete it, and a turret shoots you, takes out the rest of your health, kills you, and forces you to restart the entire level, it makes you so tired of hearing your character's death sound that you're ready to hear your own death sound. This might not sound like a fair criticism because lots of games use a checkpoint system just like this, but in this game, the combat is so slow, and it takes so long to get back to where you were, that it really just kills the pacing of every level. Overall, this level consists of mostly the same things as the first one. You fight enemies, you use the Force on things, you move on. One big thing it adds is Jar Jar's ability to jump to really high platforms, but you don't really use that very often. You only use it like once or twice. But we aren't moving on to the third level yet. First, we gotta watch another slideshow. I find it interesting how after you finish each level in this game, it shows you more stats than it normally does in the console version. You get to see how many droids you took out, you get to see how many blaster bolts you deflected, of course the amount of studs you picked up, and then how many Death Stars you found. This game doesn't have any mini kits, it has little Death Star holograms. There are only 5 of these to collect in each level, which makes sense because these levels are much smaller than the levels on the console version. There's not as much room to explore on here, so limiting down the number of collectible items is reasonable. I don't know why they're Death Stars and not just mini kits, but I don't know. You also get this creepy laugh from Yoda at the end of every level. It's a nice addition, I guess. In level 3, you play as Qui-Gon and Jar Jar again. I really don't know why this game forbids Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan from being in a level together. But in this level, you get to play as Padme for the first time, or Amidala, if you will. Also, I don't understand why you play as Padme from Attack of the Clones. Amidala carries a blaster with her, which is fairly quick at knocking down battle droids. The only problem is you can only aim straight ahead, and you can only face a handful of angles, meaning most of the time you can't hit everything from where you're standing, even if they're right in front of you. At the end of the level, you need to free 5 pilots before getting on board the okay, never mind, the level just ends. Alright, this next level's where we really start to deviate from the console version. This game doesn't have any ship or vehicle levels, so instead of the pod race, we have a level where we control Qui-Gon as he walks around on Tatooine. This level, of course, seeks to adapt the scene from The Phantom Menace, where Qui-Gon and the gang travel to Mos Espa and... What? How did they get this wrong? The console version of the game acknowledges the name of the location. It was at this point that it became very clear to me just how bold the developers were when they decided to change Mos Espa to Mos Eisley and give their own unique spin on the Phantom Menace story. So Qui-Gon travels to Mos Eisley, and we see what appears to be child Anakin standing around with his local death stick dealer, I guess. Most of this level is just Qui-Gon walking around killing things, but you do get to play as R2-D2 for the first time. He can fly around, which uses the stamina bar, and he can place bombs as his main attack, which is Kind of a cool addition. It's about time they finally acknowledge R2-D2's landmine placing abilities. This is something that's very special to him, and it's been repressed for a long time. The big thing I'm not a fan of is how McClunky the platforming is when trying to fly around with him, or really the platforming in general. Throughout this game, there are so many instances where you need to jump to another platform, but you can't really tell if it's higher or lower than the platform you're already standing on, so it makes you just end up smashing your game cartridge and lighting it on fire. Now, obviously, this isn't exclusive to LEGO Star Wars for the Game Boy Advance. Many other games take on this style of graphics. I just find it annoying that you have to restart the level every time you Level 5 is titled Gungan Alliance. There is only one Gungan. That's right, in this level you play as Jar Jar Binks as he takes on the entire Trade Federation droid army by himself. Jar Jar is the Rambo of Star Wars. He just steamrolls over these guys the entire level. Literally, this is where I found out what his special stamina move does. He literally just runs around flailing his arms everywhere, destroying everything in his path. At random times during this level as well, we get filled in on what's going on in space. We get these sudden cutscenes where we watch Anakin fly around and, of course, eventually destroy the Trade Federation droid control ship. And then this happens.
Blast him! Uh-oh.
But that's not the end of the level yet. We first have to cut to Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul duking it out in the Royal Palace. And I think the best parts of this game are the boss battles. Although they're pretty simple and pretty much just require you to spam the attack button, they were at least a little more exciting than the typical combat you have otherwise. Then, of course, we have to endure the gut-wrenching scene where Darth Maul strikes Qui-Gon down and... oh god. And that's it for episode 1. A solid 5 levels, but it's time to move on to Attack of the Clones, which only has 3 levels. That's right, episode 2 has 3 levels, and 2 of them are basically the same thing. Starting off with the first level of Attack of the Clones, it becomes very obvious that this game had no budget and was probably rushed to be completed at the last minute. The first level of Attack of the Clones is the 4th level of The Phantom Menace, but with a couple extra segments added in. Anakin dreams about his old drug dealer friend being chased down by Tusken Raiders, which causes him to wake up in a cold sweat. He contemplates his life for a minute, then pulls up to Tatooine for a new adventure in Mos Eisley. You really gotta hand it to them for sticking with Mos Eisley. I mean, this is their 2nd time using this location, and not once did they say, maybe we should actually go with the name of the location from the movie. You know, the console version of the game got it right, maybe we should go with it too. No, Mos Espa is a myth. Here he finds Watto, who tells him about the Lars family, and off he goes. He shows up at the moisture farm, and the first thing they make him do is repair the entirety of their property while defending himself from the Sand People. And everyone else just stands around and does nothing. The developers of this game clearly had a fascination with characters taking on entire armies single-handedly. The console version said teamwork, GBA said no. The console version said Mos Espa, the GBA said no. The 3rd section of this level is where we really get into the meat of the story we've been looking for. Anakin hops on a speeder bike and ventures off to save his favorite crackhead from captivity. This section of the level is where Anakin slaughters all of the Tusken Raiders at this camp, a scene filled with pain, agony, and sadness. Of course, once he kills not just the men, but the women and the children too, the Star Wars theme song plays to congratulate him. Imagine if this happened in the movie. Alright, level 2 of Attack of the Clones, although I might as well review both level 2 and 3 together because they're essentially the same thing. Level 2 of Attack of the Clones follows Obi-Wan, Phantom Menace Obi-Wan, as he makes his way through the droid factory. This, of course, is based on that one scene of Attack of the Clones where Obi-Wan spies on the Separatist meeting and gets captured. Other than that, nothing noteworthy really happens here. You just walk around this incredibly simple level layout and fight enemies, and then the level ends. A cutscene plays and we get 2 images, and they do a pretty good job of showing us what's going on. Anakin and Padme see Obi-Wan's message, then we see him captured. Alright, level 3, this is where everything happens. So we jump into level 3 of 3, and it's pretty much the exact same level as the previous one, other than some changes to the route you take through the factory. One big difference about this level is that you need to use R2-D2 to activate panels, and you would think this mechanic would be introduced earlier when you played as R2-D2 for the first time. Whatever, just introduce it halfway through the game. So you fight enemies and you use R2-D2 to do R2-D2 things. But come on, you can't wrap up this entire episode with the droid factory level, can you? What about the fight between Yoda and Count Dooku? Well, that gets included here too, actually. At the end of the level, Anakin and Obi-Wan catch up with Count Dooku, and without even getting to fight him, he takes them both out immediately. So, none other than Yoda shows up to take on Count Dooku himself. And that's it. They fight, we watch another slideshow, and it ends. That's the entirety of Attack of the Clones. No Camino, no arena battle, no gunship cavalry. Well, actually, I can live with no gunship cavalry. You really have to admire the developers' brave and innovative decision to basically remove 2/3 of Attack of the Clones from the game. The developers of the console version were all cowards and they decided to leave the whole story in. But that's enough about Attack of the Clones. Let's get into Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. We get off to a bang here! Completely original level design, a final Count Dooku boss battle, Episode 2 Anakin makes a return, as well as Episode 1 Obi-Wan? I don't even know why I'm still holding on to my GameCube version of the game. In that version, it makes you play as Episode 3 Obi-Wan in Episode 3. It completely goes against Star Wars lore and has ruined the franchise for me as a whole. Episode 3, Level 2 is horrifying. This has to be my least favorite level of the entire game. You play as Yoda on Kashyyyk, and your first objective is to free 5 clone troopers from captivity. Sounds easy enough, right? Now, maybe I just suck at this game, which I do, but this part was insane! This short objective took me almost 25 minutes to complete. Hordes of enemies surround you like mosquitoes wherever you go. If you're low on health and you stop to free 1 clone, you die! You get to play as Chewbacca for the first time, which is pretty cool. I still haven't figured out what his stamina move does, but I'm guessing it's similar to Jar Jar's lawnmower attack. I'm not even gonna try to get that. So we get to the 3rd level, and so far there are no level repeats in Episode 3. We've gotten 3 original levels so far, and I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. This level follows Obi-Wan as he and R4-P17 search for General Grievous on Utapau. The level's a little long and repetitive, but it ends with one of my favorite boss battles from the game. Obi-Wan goes toe-to-toe with General Grievous. The location's cool, and you can step on these buttons to get power-ups. I also like how Obi-Wan's chest is yellow in the cutscene. This entire level is extremely accurate to the film. Alright, so far, Episode 3 has been impressing me with its original, unrepeated levels. I can't wait to see what they do next. Fuck. This level takes all the worst parts of the game and shoves them down your throat. The clones turn on you in this one, so you're now being swarmed by both droids and clones who want to kill you. The entire level is just Yoda trying to escape from Kashyyyk, and it's extremely repetitive. You get attacked by these guys, these guys, these guys, these guys, these guys, and these guys, and that's the whole level. You run around and get attacked. These battle droids that control these turrets are absolutely crazy. It's so easy to die by these things. I know this part's important to the story, but this entire level feels so pointless. There isn't even a single cutscene to go with any of it. It just throws you back on Kashyyyk and makes you run around areas you've already been to. But this time there's even more enemies. Alright, okay. One repeating level isn't too bad. Like, from here on out, there's nothing they can repeat story-wise, right? This level is very important to the story, as we need to see Obi-Wan run away from clones on Utapau. You also get to go through these caves. I really don't know what this whole area is, but you get to run around in here with R4-P17 still, and then you beat the level. There's no cutscene. You unlock Obi-Wan. Finally, it only took like 25 levels. For a minute there, I was scared the final duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan was gonna happen on Utapau, but there is a sixth and final level to Revenge of the Sith, where you play as Phantom Menace Obi-Wan and battle Attack of the Clones Anakin. A crazy final duel to finish off the story. This exciting final level brings back the game's attempt at 3D platforming, but this time, there's lava underneath you, so when you're trying to figure out whether or not a platform is above or below you, the stakes are higher. You might have to restart the level if you choose poorly. I don't know, maybe I'm just being a baby, but I find it kind of annoying how there are so many platforms that you can't jump to because they're too high, even though they appear to be the same height as every other platform. But at the end, you finally get that duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan. When you finally defeat Anakin at the end, you get this beautiful image illustrating the end of the duel. Anakin becomes Darth Vader, and bam! The game's done. You unlock Darth Vader for purchase as a playable character, as well as Jango Fett for some reason, and you're done! Other than the main story, you can play free play, where you replay the levels as different characters. This is useful to collect all the Death Star holograms, even though your file still counts as 100% complete without collecting them. There are also some cheat codes you can play around with. Some of them allow you to play as various characters that are otherwise unplayable. You can change the color of your lightsaber, which is pretty cool. There's one cheat code that just plays every cutscene. It's like a long family slideshow, but every picture's from a different family, so you have no idea what's going on. This game honestly could have been a lot better if they had just added more content. Add some more levels instead of just repeating the same ones over and over again. Tweak the combat system a bit, and have more puzzles throughout the game instead of just throwing enemies everywhere in an attempt to make the levels last a bit longer. Make more player models instead of having Episode 1 Obi-Wan fight Episode 2 Anakin in an Episode 3 level. I get the impression this game was very rushed, and obviously the studio's not going to put nearly as much work into the Game Boy Advance version of a game as they are into the console and PC version of the game. But I mean, come on, you could have made it fun. You could have at least added a couple extra player models, maybe an extra level, more music than just Duel of Fates for every boss battle. Alright, I've had it with this game. I'm going to play Chicken Little.